Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
The Projection Booth is single-handedly the greatest film podcast you could ever listen to or could possibly want.
Top notch. 5 stars. This has quickly become one of my favorite film-related podcasts. Always interesting.
A completely unpretentious yet fully comprehensive look at films from all genres.
The Projection Booth podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast. Here are Brad, Lisa, Brian, and Darren.
Welcome to another edition of the ITMODcast podcast. With me, reluctantly, is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Hello, people.
Held hostage. Being held captive. Yeah. Also joining us of her own free will is Lisa Gullickson, Sleepy Beepy, Wife Dork.
Hello.
And Brad Gullickson, Mouth Dork.
All I want is to kill you or be killed by you.
Whoa, and I'm your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, and welcome to the ITMODcast podcast review cast for Stephen Chow's Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah.
So, if you have not been listening to any of our most recent podcast episodes, then you would not know that thanks to the brilliant and wonderful and kind and gracious Andy Gyurisin of the Alamo Draft House in Winchester, ITMOD has been allowed to partner up with Film Club 3.0 out there and program a month of films. Each Sunday in the month of May, each dork will go out there and host a screening of a film of their choosing. I chose Kung Fu Hustle. Wife Dork chose Head, obviously. Mm-hmm. Brad Gullickson chose Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. And the hostage chose The Gray. And so we just had our recent screening of the first film, which was Kung Fu Hustle. So I went out there, hosted that, and was welcomed with open arms and everyone out there. And it was an amazing experience for me. I had not seen this film since not seen this film. I'm sorry. I hadn't seen it on the big screen since its initial release, but I've seen it subsequently many times on home video. Kung Fu Hustle is directed and stars Stephen Chow. It is about a character Singh who wants to be a gangster, so he he hustles and lies and plays the part and ends up causing a rift between the real Axe gang and some innocent and kind residents of Pigsty Alley. And Pigsty Alley is home secretly to some kung fu masters who wish to live a life of peace and quiet. But because of Singh's deception and his tricks, violence befalls Pigsty Alley, and the kung fu masters are forced to come out of hiding to protect the other residents of Pigsty Alley. And yes.
So, I mean, my question to you, Darren.
Yeah.
This is ITMOD month. Andy has given us an opportunity to screen any movie we want. Some behind the scenes, he actually said, well, give me 5 just to be on the safe side.
Right.
But Andy scored all our number 1 picks. Uh-huh. And Kung Fu Hustle was your number 1 movie that you wanted to see on the big screen. A film that you've seen on the big screen already.
Yes.
Why bring that to Film Club 3.0?
Because I've already hosted a screening of Mad Max Fury Road, so I don't have a problem doing it again and again and again. But again, as I mentioned in my opening, I was really taking the audience into consideration and thinking, what would be a good film to host and to screen where I was pretty sure the audience would receive it well and have a good time and have fun. Because Film Club 3.0 Andy does an excellent job of programming a wide array of genre and tones, from documentaries to, foreign cinema to really heavy stuff and weird stuff. And so I thought, instead of picking something that was really hard, I'm not going to pick like a Requiem for a Dream. I wanted to sit in the movie theater and I wanted to have that experience that you and I have, Brad, when we go watch Resident Evil, the final chapter, or when we go watch something like Collide, or when we go watch Underworld Blood Wars, like to have fun during a screening. And so I wanted to share that feeling with a whole auditorium and theater full of people.
But you wanted something classy and not Underworld Blood Wars.
Right. And I wanted something that would warrant a nice discussion before and after, something that would lead people potentially down a rabbit hole of other really cool genre films. And I felt that Stephen Chow would be a no-brainer. I was going to say Shaolin Soccer initially, but I love Kung Fu Hustle more. And I feel that film is more fun and has a nice broader range of comedy types within it. And so, yeah, I really believed in my heart that the audience would respond positively and have fun with Kung Fu Hustle. So that's why it was ultimately my choice. And so, from gauging the audience's reaction into in the conversation afterwards, it seems like the audience did have fun. And so the film opens with that's one of the things that because I hadn't watched Kung Fu Hustle in a while, I had kind of forgotten how much variation there is in tone. So the film opens up with the establishment of the brutality of the Axe Gang. The fact that this era is run by gangsters. The police are bought off.
I had forgotten that it starts off with another gang, like a tinier gang, like four individuals, and they're gangsters mall, and they're in a police station telling this cop, "Look, we're taking over this joint. So get used to it.
Right.
Peace out."
And so they leave, and as they're coming out, the Axe Gang arrives, and the Axe Gang is the local gang that is taking over. They're going through an era of just bloodshed and forceful acquisition of all things in this particular town. So it's like just straight up gangster movie shit. And so the Axe Gang comes down the street, and all of a sudden that the big bad gang that we see at the opening of the film, who tell the police to go screw off, now they're cowering and trying to run away. And in the first shocking act of violence, and it's shot so badass. I mean, this is one of the first inclinations that not only is Stephen Chow a brilliant performer, comedic, and even dramatically when he needs to be, but the way he shoots his films is extremely impressive. There's a shot where the supposed big bad guy is running away, and Sam Nguyen, who is in so many Hong Kong films, he falls to the ground and tosses an axe because he's an Axe Gang member, and that axe flies over and cuts this guy's leg off below the knee. And the way that it's shot is shown in an overhead shot and also in a profile shot, tracking shot, and it's just so badass. But then the next shocking act of violence is the crime boss's wife is standing on the side of the street, witness to this murder, and she's sobbing. And so the Axe Gang leader says, "Don't worry, I don't kill women. I'm not going to kill you. You can go." And as she's walking away, this guy shoots her in the back. And so watching it last night, I was thinking, oh man, I kind of forgot about that. I wonder how the audience is going to respond to that. And so then the next scene, we are taken to Pigsty Alley, and we're shown we greeted the residents of Pigsty Alley, and we meet the landlord, her husband, and then we meet the landlady. We meet the quirky guy who cuts hair. We meet the shop attendants, the tailor, the guy who makes the donuts, his name's Donut, and we meet the coolie. And I love the way that Stephen Chow establishes the geography, but also the different characters that populate, the main characters that populate Pigsty Alley, and the different tracking and establishing shots in this location. And it's a wonderful set. It's a wonderful outdoor yet semi-enclosed set. And so we meet the boisterous and loud and over-the-top landlady, and she's just being so mean to the residents of Pigsty Alley, and everyone's cowering from her.
Everyone's late on their rent.
Yeah, and they establish
that's right.
They establish these alter egos for these people, because she seems loud and angry, but yet also cowardly. When trouble arises, she's the first to scram and go hide under the covers. The tailor guy she constantly calls him a fairy, and he seems like really meek. And then the baker guy, the donut they call Donut, he seems very non-confrontational. And the coolie just seems like a diligent worker who cares about nothing except doing his daily work. And so they set this misleading personalities up for these characters that play a really cool part in multiple reveals throughout the film. So Stephen Chow I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Oh, I also really appreciate the fact that they introduced Pigsty Alley as this place of peace. Like,
yes.
In this community, nobody gives a shit about the poor people. Mm-hmm. So those are the only people who are leading like a contented life that's not being ravaged by these gangsters because they don't have anything of value. Because generally in movies, poverty is portrayed as like this underbelly of violence and crime. And, you know, this is just kind of a tight community of people just kind of, you know, some quirky people just trying to get along and live their lives.
And shirking on their rent.
On their rent. Because they're broke. They established that.
Yeah. And so Stephen Chow's Sing character arrives with his buddy in tow, and they try to strong-arm their way out of a free haircut and shake the barber down. And then the landlady comes.
The barber with some butt cleavage. There's a strong, heavy-handed butt cleavage theme in this film.
And he attempts to shake this barber down, but then the landlady comes. And then not only the landlady, but the residents of Pigsty Alley, they come to the aid, and you see a sense of community with them.
I love that scene where Stephen Chow's like, look, I'll fight you guys. Look, one-on-one. How about you, small guy, over there? And then he stands up and he's a giant. Like, oh, old man, over here, Four Eyes. And he comes out, he's like ripped like Schwarzenegger. All right, you child down there, I'm going to fight you. And that kid comes out.
Ripped,
he's even got muscles on muscles.
He's like, all right, well, it won't be a one-on-one fight today. You know, but he calls for the Axe Gang, and the real Axe Gang actually shows up. And they ask, he accidentally throws a firecracker. It lands in the Axe Gang member's hat. The Axe Gang member walks around the corner and says, who threw that? And he blames it on the landlady. So they go over there and they start tearing up shit in Pigsty Alley, and they douse a woman and her child in gasoline.
That's fucked up, by the way.
Well, that's the thing about this movie. You know, you talked about the tonal shifts at the start, you know, when he shoots that woman in the back with a shotgun. Mm-hmm. There are real stakes in this movie. Mm-hmm. So when that mother and son are doused in gasoline, you're like, oh, well, this isn't all just, you know, hijinks.
Right. And so when that happens, when they're doused in gasoline, for me, even though I've seen the film, but the suspense and the drama and the terror is drummed up because 2 scenes ago, I saw this guy ruthlessly shoot a lady in the back. So I know that he's capable. Like, he will kill this woman and this kid. So, like, it really drums up the suspension and the suspense and the tension because you know, like, he's capable. He's a really bad dude. And so as he's about to do this, that's when we get the first reveal of the first kung fu master from Pigsty Alley, which is the Coolie, and it's a really cool fight sequence. And again, when you think about Stephen Chow, if you know of Stephen Chow, Stephen Chow has a long history in TV and film. Again, he was starred in 50 films before he starred and directed Kung Fu Hustle, but he is mostly known as a comedic actor. But when you look at Kung Fu Hustle, and specifically like the fight sequences and the way that they're shot, you would be really surprised and impressed at Stephen Chow's ability to shoot action. He's not just a really good comedic performer. He has a really deft eye in hand at shooting action. And so that they have this scene where all the masters are slowly revealed in Pigsty Alley, and then that causes, while they save the day, it upsets the landlady because, like Lisa said, Pigsty Alley was a place where before Singh came along and stirred up trouble, like the Axe Gang and crime that element wouldn't come here. And now because you've revealed yourselves, they're going to retaliate. So you all need to leave. And so they leave. And there's one of the things I mentioned in the opening of the screening is that Stephen Chow, his films have comedy in it, they have action, but they also have heart, and most of the heart, or a lot of the heart, if not most of it, comes from the supporting characters in his film. Stephen Chow he's on the poster, he's on the cover, he's quote unquote the star of Kung Fu Hustle, but he's not on screen a lot of the time. It's the supporting characters that do get a lot of screen time, the landlady and the landlord, the three masters, they spend time and take time establishing and making you care about those characters, so that when the stakes are risen and they're high, when things happen, you genuinely have some type of emotional reaction to it. Before they leave, you see the villagers of Pigsty Alley offer them what very little they have, and again, that ties back into the sense of community that they have, that they're so respected and so grateful that even though we don't have much, because you've stood up and protected us, we'll give you our last. So you see that these gangsters who live this life in the city and all about this crime, they're very mean people, but here these poor people who don't have anything are still willing to give the very little that they have, to show that their gratitude for people who help them out. So they really establish them as really good and genuine people. And so they attempt to leave, but because the Axe Gang do not take lightly to getting their asses handed to them, they hire some hitmen to go in and take out the landlord and the landlady. And so this scene, there's a scene where the coolie is on his way out of Pigsty Alley, and he gets one of the assassins takes him out, and then the other two masters are attacked. And so this is the scene where the landlord and the landlady are revealed. They reveal them true selves to be kung fu masters, and it was really cool watching it this time with the audience to see their response to that, because there were quite a few people who had not seen the film.
So Lisa, this is the first time you'd seen Kung Fu Hustle,
Correct?
And what's interesting to me about this film is, I knew who Stephen Chow was going into the film when I first saw it, and so I always tracked him as the lead of the film because it's Stephen Chow. But really, there is no...
After the film was over, I go to Brett, so which one was Stephen Chow? And he was like, the main guy. And I was like, well, who was the main guy of this film? And he was like, the guy at the end. I was like, oh, because I would say that the landlady and her husband were really the main characters and the heroes of the film, even though Stephen Chow's character Singh does have this transformative moment at the end. It's really an ensemble movie. It's not a one-man show.
I mean, really, the main character of the film is Pigsty Alley, right? And at different points in Kung Fu Hustle, one of the characters or a group of the characters become the focus. Stephen Chow at the start certainly seems like the focus, him and his little buddy. But because they are so pathetic and are taken down so easily by Pigsty Alley, those three masters start to feel like, oh, well, we're going to follow these three guys. But then the coolie gets his head cut off.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And you're like, oh,
wow, yeah,
what's happening?
Yeah.
What is this movie?
Yeah, and I think that I like that about Stephen Chow, that he's very generous, and not only it's not just unique to Kung Fu Hustle, but if you go back and watch Shaolin Soccer, which he also quote unquote stars in, that also feels like an ensemble piece, because he does spend time and develop the supporting characters in that film, and so he's always for the most part in a lot of his films been generous, even when films that are more directly focusing on him, like King of Beggars and King of Comedy, he still is very generous with his screen time and his other characters.
Well, and what's so interesting about this film from an antagonist standpoint is that every time, for the majority of this movie, whenever the antagonists seem to get the upper hand, a kung fu master presents himself or herself to take him out. So when the coolie has his head cut off, and those two assassins who are using they're using, what's that instrument that they're playing?
A chin.
Oh.
It's a chin?
It's spelled Qin.
Okay.
It's a chin or
and when they pluck the strings, they send invisible razor blades out.
And fists and stuff.
And fists and entire skeleton armies by the end. And they are deadly and scary. But then landlady and landlord reveal themselves to be total badasses, and she obliterates them and humiliates them
with her lion's roar.
Yeah, she goes full Black Canary and blows their clothes off their backs. And you're like, oh, well, okay, well, the Axe Gang's not a threat. And until it keeps going, and we meet the Beast, and they lure Stephen Chow's, wannabe gangster to go unlatch the door where the Beast is kept in that very ominous insane asylum.
Yeah. Frog infested hallway.
Yes, the shining blood corridor.
Yeah. And so Lisa, what was your response to the whimsical and cartoony and the invisible razor blades and the skeleton army? What was your response to that nature of the film?
I thought it was fun. I'm not like a huge physical comedy person. Right. I'm just not. But I did find I was charmed by it.
What about the Roadrunner sequence when Stephen Chow blitzes out of there and Landlady comes chasing after him, and their feet literally do that Roadrunner spin, and they're racing down the highway. Even within the context of what this film has presented itself at this point, that is still way out there.
It's nuts, yeah.
I thought that they were going to go more into the cartoon, because that is extremely cartoony. But at one moment, Singh has had the shit beaten out of him, and then he's in the next scene, and his buddy, what's his buddy, the big guy? What's his name?
Big guy.
That's insensitive. What? His bestie.
Yeah, big guy.
Okay. Anyway, his buddy friend. I'm not gonna call him big guy. Is you're always okay by the next scene. And I wonder, I thought maybe that would be the reveal, that he is Wile E. Coyote and he is, just destined to be smashed and squished and anviled and whatnot. Yeah. But that never really came up again.
Yeah, because that whole his healing thing was more attributed to that him being the chosen
His
one.
name is Bone, by the way, not Big Guy.
Oh, that's nice.
And so I thought that. So speaking of villains in the film, we had the scene with the landlady and the musician assassins, and those were thwarted. But then the Beast is released, and there's a fight between the Beast and the landlady and the landlord in the casino.
I mean, so the Beast is released because they're building up. Stephen Chow, he goes to the asylum. There's this swirling vortex of evil floating above the asylum, and lightning crashing down, and you're like, oh, there's something bad's in there. And he goes down the dark corridor. There are frogs hopping around. There is a corridor of blood. What's behind this door? Well, is a meek old man. This film is all about subverting expectation. So the Beast is this bald, he's got a few strands of hair escaping his scalp. He wears flip-flops, really dirty, rotten shorts, and a wife beater for an outfit. And so when they bring him back, when they bring the Beast back to the Axe Gang's headquarters, the gambling den, they're like, okay, well, show us what you got, because are you sure you got him from the right place? Is this the guy? I don't know. And Stephen Chow's, I'll show you. I'll give him a good punch, and he just taps him on the forehead. And when a guy goes to shoot him in the face, no, he beats down one dude, and then he takes that guy's gun and points the gun at his own head, fires, and he catches the bullet. And he says, Kung Fu, speed is how you win, or something along those lines, paraphrasing. And when he catches that bullet, you're like, okay, well, this guy's serious business. And so now they got to go down to Pigsty Alley, except the landlord and the landlady have brought the fight to them. They're already in the gambling hall. Yeah. And now the Beast is just excited to fight somebody. And that's where my quote comes from, where he's like, look, I'm either going to kill you or be killed by you, and that's the greatest thing ever, to meet my match.
Isn't that when he kills the leader, though? Was it before or after the fight? Remember when he punches him and his head circles?
Yeah, it's after the fight.
Yeah, but that's that sequence between the Beast and the landlord and landlady in that casino. That was pretty badass. That was a pretty badass fight sequence that ends with her using her lion's roar with that bell and blowing him away. But then we see that Singh, there's a character moment for him where he's told by the Axe Gang leader while the Beast has the landlord and landlady in the headlock to go hit the landlord on the head with, just bust him over the head. And he ends up hitting the Beast. He makes a choice to hit the Beast, and the beast retaliates by kicking his ass up in the air and then punching his head through the floor. And then the landlord and landlady whisk him off afterwards, and then put him up in the wrap him up in the cocoon, and then he has the metamorphosis like the butterfly, and he comes out, and now he's like all badass Bruce Lee, Stephen Chow. And so at this point,
dressed in white,
yeah,
death incarnate.
Yeah, and so the at this point, the beast has brought the Axe Gang to Pigsty Alley, and they've come for him. And then you have the final sequence. So you had the fight between Singh and all of the Axe Gang, which is a really cool fight sequence, and his final confrontation with the beast. And so at the end, instead of vanquishing his opponent and beating him up or killing him like Bruce Lee would have done if this were Fist of Fury or the Big Boss, Singh he converts him in a way. First, he tries an underhanded trick, saying "I give up," and then he tries to have one last ditch effort to kill Singh, but Singh displays the power of Buddhist palm, and the beast sees his might and says, "Teach me."
So the Buddhist palm. So he gets kicked up into the atmosphere.
Yeah,
Stephen Chow is like flying through the air, and he passes like a falcon, and he manages to put his foot on the falcon and use the falcon as a springboard to
push
himself up higher to begin his descent, full Buddhist palm attack.
Yeah,
and he's so high up when he's coming down through the stratosphere, he catches on fire.
Yeah,
and his clothes are burning away from him. And when he finally unleashes the Buddhist palm onto the beast, it creates a handprint,
a giant
handprint that splats the beast into the ground.
And watching it this time, I've seen it many times, obviously, but watching it this time, because we've been doing the spotlight cast with Bruce Lee, and Brad, you constantly bring up Bruce Lee's philosophies and how they relate to his earlier films, and do we see his philosophies in those films? And I couldn't help but think about those conversations when watching Kung Fu Hustle this time, because again, like in Bruce Lee, he would have killed that guy. He would have killed the beast at the end of that film. He would have delivered a devastating blow that would have ended his life.
And then the Japanese army would have shown up and shot him.
Right. But with Stephen Chow and his, like Bruce Lee, his ideas about Buddhism and showing that the greatest victory to your opponent is not to end their life, but if you can change the way that they think and how they live and have that effect, and also in turn gain an ally. And you see that at the end of this film. So you have like this crazy tonal juggling. You have like the crazy murder and the violence, but also you have the Buddhist practice, the Buddhism practice in there, where they show how, instead of, we have the Axe Gang people who do these things, but because I have the ability to do these martial arts and fall from the heavens and deliver devastating killer finishing moves, that's not how I'm going to deal with my opponent. I'm going to do it in a manner where I can reach out, extend peace, and teach him and help him become enlightened. And I really found that effective this time for me, this go around. I really like that aspect of the film, especially after watching all these Bruce Lee movies, where like Bruce Lee's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing is wrong, but you killed my teacher, so I gotta shatter your rib cage. So yeah, and then at the end, it ends on that nice sweet note, because there's a backstory between Singh and this childhood friend that he saved from some bullies once, and they peed on him and beat him up, and that led him down the path of learning the Buddhist palm from a $10 kung fu.
Well, it was actually a 25-cent kung fu book that he got ripped off.
Yeah,
and that speaks to the theme that I noticed, was that I found this film to be all about hidden potential, like from humble circumstances. Yep. Like this amazing finishing move, the Buddhist palm, was the result of this little pamphlet that was the result of an unfortunate circumstance that we had all written off as a joke and a trick, and the hidden potential of the people in Pigsty. They seemed so humble, but at the same time, the place was infested with kung fu masters. Yeah. And then of course ultimately with Singh's character and him turning out to be this caterpillar just waiting to become a butterfly. So that was the theme that really spoke to me throughout the film.
Yep, same. And then it ends on such a sweet note where he opens the candy shop for his little childhood friend. And I love how the camera rotates around them as adults when they meet back up, and then they revert to their childhood selves.
Yeah.
Again. I thought that was really
so
sweet.
Cute.
And then there's another potential student who was offered 5 different kung fu pamphlets. So I just really had fun with that film, and I'm glad that the audience had a good time with it. And again, I'm really grateful that Andy allowed me to host that and got screened it actually for us.
Well, Darren, I thought you did like a great job afterwards. We had a pretty good group stick around, and you went around and talked to pretty much everybody, and there were some new people to Film Club 3.0 as well as the usual suspects. I mean, what were you hearing from the crowd? How did the crowd respond to it?
I did not speak to one person who did not enjoy that film. There were a lot of people bringing first-timers to Kung Fu Hustle to this screening, and I spoke to those people. I spoke to this couple. The gentleman, he's actually been to several screens. He's seen us. At least he recognized me and my sweater from other screenings, potential Lost Weekend screenings and things like that. And so he's been in the area. His girlfriend just moved out here, and so this was her first time at the Alamo. And so she had never seen Kung Fu Hustle, and she enjoyed it. And so there were a bunch of couples. There was a gentleman who brought his grandson to see it, and there were some people there who are already fans of it. So
did the grandson like it?
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry, the grandson, that was his favorite movie. That's what the grandfather told me. This is my grandson, brought him here. This is his favorite movie. So there were people already. The people who had seen it were there because they loved it, and the people who were new to the screening had a ball with it and enjoyed it. And so that's the only thing that mission accomplished, because again, I said I wanted to pick a film that the audience would have fun with, and that's what I got from my discussions post screening, was that everyone had fun with it. And so I was pleased.
It's going to be really interesting, Lisa, the post head conversation on Sunday.
That's going to be so awesome, because like if you listen to the podcast, you would know, like Lisa, when she talks about films, not just head and not just films that warrant like a really dumbed down explanation of it, but when she talks about film, she always provides an insight that very rarely do myself, Brian, or Brad give about a certain film. And so I love to hear, that's why I love discussing movies with Lisa, because I always love to hear her points of view. And so again, I know for a fact that at the end of that film, people are going to be like, okay, what the fuck is that? And so and because I've had this conversation with Lisa already, I get to sit back and watch Lisa school these people and educate them about.
I'm going to go back and listen to our old ITMOD homework episode where and Lisa assigned head to you, Darren?
Yep, to me.
So I want to listen to that episode again.
Same, because I got to prep myself for this rewatch. Because again, post that discussion, after that discussion with Lisa, she says, "Well, this is what they were saying. This is the state of mind that they were in. This is what was indicative of the times. This is why that was in the film." But I had not had any of that going into the film. So all this barrage of this psychedelic imagery and this music and these weird set pieces and vignettes was just like bombarding me with like all this shit. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? But when Lisa put it into context for me, I was like, oh, okay. So now I can take that context with me into my second viewing of it, and it's going to make a better screening for me.
I think that I've even learned more about the film prepping for this screening. Mm-hmm. I've learned more about the film than the last time I've watched it, because a lot of my initial interpretation is a lot of what I was bringing to the film and what I had known at that time. But now I have even more of a greater historical and cinematic context than the way that I watched the film the last time. So I think that there's still some secrets that head holds, even from me.
Yeah, and so having said that, because of that specifically, now I'm really looking forward to that post-film discussion, because again, there's going to be things in there that Lisa had not saw and explained to me before. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So again, thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Thank you, Film Club 3.0. Thank you, Lisa and Brad, for coming out.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian, for wanting to be there but couldn't be there because you just don't care. You hate me.
You were at the beach. What were you doing? Having fun?
Yeah.
We were on vacay.
Yeah, getting some tans.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. All right.
How many tans? That sounds like you're collecting skin.
Yeah.
I got 11 tans.
Maybe.
Buffalo Brian.
Also, this new lamp.
As Lisa just mentioned, next up, she is hosting Head on the 14th, this coming Sunday, at 5 p.m. at the Alamo in Winchester. Tickets are still on sale, so please come out, support Film Club 3.0, support ITMODcast, and support the discussion of film. Brad has Pat Garret and Billy the Kid on the 21st of May, also at 5 p.m. at the Alamo. Tickets are on sale for that one as well, just as tickets are on sale for the screening of The Gray, which Brian is hosting on the 28th of May, also at 5 p.m. Come out to any one of those screenings. Come out to all of those screenings. Support Film Club 3.0, support cinema, support ITMODcast, and support the discussion of film. That's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Follow the podcast at ITMODcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow Brian at the Turtle Dork and on Twitter at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and Brian William Young on Facebook. Wife Dork is conveniently at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd, and Brad Gullickson is also conveniently at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. And I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. You know where. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.